It's that time of year again. Time to print your holiday cards, take your family photos, find the perfect gifts, string the lights, and sprinkle some holiday cheer. At FedEx Office, we want to help simplify your season so you can get back to unwrapping the magic. We want to make designing holiday cards festive again. Printing as easy as click and ship. And packing and shipping, that's kind of our thing. So check off that to-do list and create more happy for the holidays at office.fedex.com.
This episode is brought to you by Starry. When you drink Starry Lemon Lime Soda, every sip is a win. Perfect for game time or anytime. It's a crisp, refreshing lemon lime soda that's caffeine-free and bursting with flavor that makes you go, ah. Starry hits different. Find it in stores or online today.
You're a child's plaything. You are a toy!
Hello and welcome to Unequal Sequel. I am Dave. I'm one of the two hosts of this podcast.
And I'm Rich. I am the other host of this podcast. Think of me as Spock to Dave's Captain Kirk. I think very logically, and Dave likes sitting in chairs and telling everyone what to do.
The premise of Unequal Sequel is very simple. We ask our guests their best ever sequel, worst ever sequel, and finally, their dream sequel.
And of course, we often drift off a bit and have some good chats about movies.
That's very true. On today's episode, we are joined by film critic Rhys Bowen-Jones.
For those of you who don't know, and you really should, Rhys is a Rotten Tomato approved staff writer for Jump Cut Online and one of the hosts of the Jumpcast podcast.
We're all excited to sit down with Rhys and chat all things sequels with him.
This is Rhys Bowen-Jones, Unequal Sequels. Enjoy!
Are you a fan of a good sequel?
Yeah, I really do like going back to see kind of the next installment. Like, it's not the one I've picked for today's episode, but I think Back to the Future 2, for example, I've always felt is better than the first one, just because it's a more of an expansion of the idea, and it's nice kind of in that film in particular, you know, going back and then literally retreading the first film steps is a really fun kind of way to do it. And yeah, I'm a big fan of sequels. Like I'm also weird with my kind of my Lord of the Rings theories. I think that Two Towers is the better of the two sequels. Yeah, I'm a big fan of film sequels, and obviously there are many bad ones, but in a general terms, I think sequels are invariably a positive experience.
I just have to say the two examples you've just picked bang on. Second Back
Thanks.
Second Back to the Future is better than the other two, and so is Two Towers. Do you remember your first sequel that you ever saw?
Yes, it's actually the film that I kind of picked today. The first cinema experience I ever remember. I think because I want to say about 7 at the time, maybe a bit older. But I was seeing Toy Story 2 in my local showcase cinemas in Nant Garw in South Wales, and I've never forgotten that place. I think that experience was. I'm not sure if it was my actual first ever experience of the cinema, but that's the one that I recall the most as being one of my earliest cinema memories.
Yeah.
Was going to see Toy Story 2. So yeah.
At that point, have you seen Toy Story 1?
I had. Yeah, I loved Toy Story 1. I had it on VHS growing up, and Toy Story 1 is an absolute classic for all sorts of very deserved reasons. Like, it is kind of an absolute step forward in terms of animation quality and just what films can do and what you can do with computers and kind of moving forward. And the voice cast is incredible, and the story of Toy Story 1 is amazing. And it's one of those things that as a kid you always do think, are my toys alive? And just the first Toy Story just kind of embodied that concept, was just so good.
Yeah.
And I personally think that trilogy on its own, by the way, is one of the best trilogies ever made. Like, it's in the conversation with Lord of the Rings, with Back to the Future, with the Planet of the Apes new one, as being one of the best trilogies of all time.
What about 4? Does 4 just not happen?
4 wasn't a bad film in any stretch of the imagination. In terms of animation, it was absolutely phenomenal. Like, there's a shot that I still refer to today as being one of the coolest animated shots of all time, which is when Woody and Bo Peep are under the car and it's raining, and it's like the rain looks legitimately real, and I'd never seen animation done that was so photorealistic as in that Pixar film. And there are nice moments in it. Like, you do get a nice kind of send off for Woody. But I just think that in terms of Toy Story 4 compared to the other three, it felt like an unnecessary add-on because Toy Story 3 ends at a perfect point. Why did you have to go back and re-end it for the second time, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. I think I agree with you. I actually think Toy Story 2 is better than Toy Story. I prefer it, and the step up in animation, like you were saying, like from 1 to 2, is incredible. The realism of 2 is amazing.
Yeah.
But I really like the extra characters that they kind of bring in, the Jessie and the Stinky Pete, and
Bullseye,
that's it. Yeah, I really like those extra characters they bring in. I'm with you on Toy Story 2.
Yeah. So you're picking Toy Story 2, your best sequel ever. This is your pick. Okay, why? Is always the first.
Yeah, it's a big question because I know it is always kind of a conversation of, you know, which is better, Toy Story 1 or 2. And I'm sure that even in Jump Cut, for example, we always have these conversations, and there are people that fall on the side of the first one and the second one. But I think in terms of the way Toy Story 2 expands on the world that they live in, so kind of going out into the real world with Al's toy barn and stuff, and then also, like you said, the other characters, and expanding on Woody's past and where he came from, and you know the TV show that he was on and how it never kind of got an ending and stuff, and how that kind of plays into Woody's character of him feeling unfulfilled. And then you've also got, like you said, the step of animation. I still watch the clip of Woody being cleaned by Al's kind of hired goon or whatever. It's just amazing. It's like visual ASMR, you know. It's just so satisfying. So many kind of set pieces and moments in it. I love the airport scene. I think going through kind of the suitcase carousel, and then into that kind of web of travelators and stuff as they try and escape is just, like, as a kid I've always wondered what is through those kind of the black curtains at the airport, and you see it in all its glory, and it's just incredible. And then the Al's Toy Barn stuff is just really well done, and Al is a great villain and itself. The Prospector is a great villain on his own as well. It's just, there's so many brilliant moments in it that I just think it's more of a complete story adventure for Woody, specifically Woody more than Buzz, to go on during Toy Story 2. So I think Toy Story 2 is just more of a complete experience of a film compared to the first Toy Story, which is admittedly like also a 10 out of 10 on its own. Yeah. I don't think Toy Story 2 is just a 10.1 out of 10.
I think Toy Story 2 is the best one as well. I agree with you. I couldn't believe it. Watching it today, 1999 this came out, and it looks phenomenal. Like, it looks amazing. Animation at that point was just, this blew everything away.
It very nearly never happened because it was deleted. Toy Story 2, so an editor working on the film entered the wrong code into a computer and deleted 90% of the film at the point they were finished. And the backups didn't work, so they made backups of the movie that didn't work. The whole thing was basically deleted, and the only reason it happened is because somebody was on maternity leave and they'd taken a copy to work on at home, and that is the copy they used to
it's insane, isn't
restore the film.
That's awesome.
They deleted the whole damn movie.
They also had to make it in 9 months, this movie, because it was originally going to be a always direct VHS, weren't it?
DVD, yeah.
And then I don't even think Pixar was starting to make it. I think it was another off branch of the Disney sequels. I can't remember the name of the studio. But then I think because Pixar hold Toy Story so highly, they looked at what they were making and they weren't happy with it. And they were like, we've got a better story, we can do something better. But they had to stick to the release date, which was the 9 months. So to make this movie in 9 months, pretty much from scratch, is phenomenal. It's just, I love the characters. Who's your favourite character? Let's just go for characters so I can talk about the characters.
I mean, Woody is obviously a fan favourite for a reason. Like, Tom Hanks on his own is just a glorious voice actor for Woody. He's literally perfect. Like, nobody else could play Woody. But then I would say of the new ones and of the whole thing, I really love Jessie in terms of her story arc in the second one, and like also her song makes me cry today. You know, like her whole, just the way she is in that film is so nice, and the way she wants them all to come back together as a family again, but he doesn't want to because he's got his own family now, and it's just really sad and emotional. So yeah, I would say it's probably between Woody and Jessie. I think Jessie might edge it in terms of Toy Story 2. Yeah. I suppose across the trilogy, it's probably Woody, but in Toy Story 2 on its own, I would say it's probably Jessie, just because of how kind of lovely her story is.
And Joan Cusack is perfect as her voice as well, right?
Amazing.
That bit when she gets left in the box It's absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is.
It's something that Pixar do so well, isn't it? Those little moments that just like rip your heart out.
Yeah.
This was at that point was like, oh my god, I'm crying. I'm going to tell you, I saw this. I went to Harlow. I lived in a place called Bishop Stortford, and we didn't have a cinema at the time. Me and my mate, and it was a full cinema, full of kids pretty much, and me and my mate got the last 2 seats. There's kids behind us that didn't get in. That's not my fault. But the way that played, and I don't think it's ever really happened since, but it got a round of applause from like a Friday night audience, like a random Friday night audience. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And obviously the kids weren't crying as much as me and my mate Sid were at that point. Like, this is
That's
so
the thing
bad.
that's the thing Toy Story does, is that it manages to pitch. I guess Pixar as a whole and do it as well, but Toy Story 2 and 3, they can pitch it as a story that works both for kids to just enjoy visually and just have a fun adventure with these characters, but then for the older generation who have grown up with the films, who are now, like when Toy Story 3 came out, I was like 18. You know, these characters have been with me since I was 5. They managed to pitch it to these people who are growing up and realising they've got to move on from their childhood at some point. And it was just, they handle these things so deftly and so effectively that you know that these writers are people that know how people work. Like, it's true enough in films like Inside Out, like they know how teenagers work in Inside Out. They know kind of what will pull at your heartstrings, and they also just, it's not just making you cry just because they want to make you cry. Like, they can hit those kind of nostalgia sweet spots to think, oh my god, I remember having my own toy as a kid. I remember not wanting to give it up and not wanting to give it to charity or whatever. Like, it is a very emotional personal experience for everyone watching that film, because everyone had that one magical toy they loved as a kid. Like, I had a little Chelsea kind of teddy bear that I had slept with every single night, effectively.
Yeah.
And that was my kind of toy that I loved.
That was your Woody. Oh,
you
you still got yours?
Yeah.
I have Bumblebee. This is my Bumblebee from when I was a kid, like 1985. Like, and I still have it now.
You can swallow that, Rich. It's dangerous.
I know, it's really tiny, but yeah, that's my Bumblebee Transformer from when I was a kid.
Well, exactly. Like, you've still got it today.
Yeah.
20 years
Sits on the
after
shelf
the film
right
came
next
out.
to me.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have 2 favourite characters in Toy Story 2.
Go on.
And Wheezy is one of my favourite characters.
Oh, I love
absolutely
Wheezy.
love Wheezy. And I love the fact that the whole film's made on Linux machines, and Wheezy is a tribute to the little Linux penguin.
Oh,
that's
is
on
he?
all the,
Oh,
and
really?
I love it. Yeah, I think it's brilliant. And I also love Jerry. Like, so Jerry's the toy restorer. So there's a Pixar short called Jerry's Game, where
When he plays
he
chess,
plays
isn't
chess against himself. Yeah, and then they bring him back essentially as the toy restorer. And there's a little scene where he opens a drawer and it's got chess pieces in it when he's fixing Woody. I love that. I think that's brilliant. And also because like I like to restore vintage toys and bring them back to life, and that's kind of a little hobby that I do. So every time I watch it, I'm like, oh, I'm bringing this toy back to life, just like in Toy Story 2.
Yeah.
My favourite character is Rex.
I
Adore Rex. I love every scene that he's in, everything that says it come out of his head. I think my favourite scene is when the fake Buzz is got this suckers and going up the elevator, and he's like, "I'm going to put the gravity on," whoever it is, and they're like, "He's not." He's like, "He is." It makes me chuckle so much. I think that's where Toy Story 2 is probably maybe a bit better than Toy Story 1. It's just laughs and emotion. This is the perfect balance. I mean, sometimes in Toy Story 3, much as it does get me, they lay it on a bit thick.
They do, yeah, they do.
This one, they do it so gently, and they mould the movie so nicely, and it plays so well. Like, it's like 94 minutes long, so the length is just lovely, especially for me because I hate long films. And it plays so nice, and the jokes and the memories, and like, it has like you were saying, feelings it brings back to you. Is just one of the reasons why it's so good, and it stayed so good. It's lasted the time.
Yeah, it had definitely.
It's going to be timeless. They worked out Toy Story 1. Amazing as it looks, the human characters don't look brilliant, do they? But this one,
the animation of the first one has definitely dated slightly.
Yeah.
But that's taken 26 years to get to that point.
Yeah.
You know, like it still looks brilliant considering you think, you know, back in that day you still had floppy disks still active, you know, and they had made an entire 3D animated film.
Yeah.
It's just
it just changed animation forever.
completely. Yeah.
honest.
They set the new standard for what animation should be like.
Yeah.
And you know, the films like today that recently I absolutely adored that new Mitchells and the Machines film on Netflix.
Oh, it's
which
great.
brilliant,
good.
by the way.
My little
I
boy's
loved
watched it 3 times already.
Oh,
I've watched it twice, so it's so good. But then, films like that, they wouldn't be a thing right now without Toy Story 1. Like, that literally paved the way for this whole new era of animation. It's just, you've got to appreciate Pixar as a company, but also that film specifically as the launch pad for so many different films.
yeah. This was the first sequel for Pixar, wasn't it?
Yes.
So a lot was probably resting on this to be successful as well.
Well, they've done A Bug's Life, I think, haven't they?
I love A Bug's
I love
Life.
Bug's
I
Life.
really, really love Bug's Life, yeah.
What did you think of music for this? The Randy Newman.
Oh, it's class. It's just, classic. Everyone knows You Got a Friend in Me, but also it does that kind of I love the Woody's Roundup theme, for example.
Yeah.
I still know that today. Woody's Roundup, come on, start to play. Like, it's just one of those things that is very memorable, and it does that kind of mixture of really epic music, like when Bullseye is apparently as fast as an airplane, kind of riding along the runway and stuff. You've got that really like, it's just, all the music is brilliant. Was he nominated for an Oscar for his score work for Toy Story 2?
He must have been.
Because it is beautiful. It's really, really good stuff. But I just think the whole film works. Like you mentioned Rex earlier. Like, I absolutely adore the opening sequence with Buzz in the video game. Like, I absolutely love that. And he's, when he's using little arms and he can't control the controller properly and stuff. It's so good. There's that bit as well when he's like controlling the TV remote and he's trying to go really, really fast. Or is that when Piggy, what's his name? Ham, thank you. When he can go really fast on the controller button to try and get Al's Toy One again.
Yeah.
He's like, I've got to go back round again. I'm sorry, I missed it. Like, it's so good.
It's just so good. I love the little bits I read today on the IMDb trivia, so it can't be wrong.
No, it's definitely right.
The bit when he's seeing all his merchandise for the first time is they actually recorded Tom Hanks. They put Woody merchandise in front of him, and that's just him reacting to, like, oh my god, I'm on a yo-yo kind of thing. Wasn't even scripted. It was all
Amazing.
touches like that. It's
so good.
It's so good. I really enjoyed watching it again today. I was like, oh, this is lovely. And it looks, like I said earlier, it looks amazing. Like in 4K as well. Wow.
You got it in 4K as well. Was that on Disney
Plus?
This episode is brought to you by Tinder. Cuffing season is in full effect, which makes Tinder the place to be right now. There's a new wave of folks coming back to the app, ready to find love, fun, or just a new friend. And if you're worried about never meeting up with your matches IRL, don't be. 1.5 million Tinder users go on dates in person every week. Explore all of the possibilities for yourself. Tinder. It starts with a swipe. Download Tinder today.
This episode is brought to you by Nerds Candy, calling all the stylish, trend-setting nerds out there, the sneakerheads and makeup fiends, the film buffs and reality TV lovers, the style icons, the pop culture geeks. When nerds come together, we live louder, celebrating our passions in our own way. So let's raise our nerds in unison. The sweet, tangy, crunchy candy that's perfect for sharing. Nerds, shake things up. Shop now at nerdscandy.com.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
What film do you think is so perfect that didn't need a sequel, but it got it?
Oh my word. How that sequel got to be worse?
It's up to you.
It just didn't need a sequel, I think is the answer.
Didn't need a sequel. That's a great question.
Grease 2 doesn't need to exist.
I watched Grease 2 as part of the Jump Cut charity thing a couple of years ago because my friend told me to watch it. She paid like a tenner so I could watch it, so I had to watch it. And I actually very much enjoyed it. I thought the songs were very fun. So I'm a fan of Grease 2. Grease 2 gets a pass from me. I enjoyed Grease 2, yeah. Could I say Jurassic Park?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the first Jurassic Park, for me, is one of the only perfect films in existence. Like, that is an absolute 10 out of 10. The pacing of that film is spot on. The first hour is a lovely kind of exploration of the island and just how that doesn't work. And the second hour is just balls to the wall, dinosaur chaos. And it's wonderful. And I mean, I'm not a big fan of The Lost World. I think that's a very kind of substandard sequel. Jurassic Park 3 is not terrible, but again, it's a byproduct of Jurassic Park 2. And despite giving us things like the Spinosaurus, it wasn't that much beyond that. And then Jurassic World 1 and 2 are both fine. I'm a fan of the first more than I am the second one, but none of them have ever been able to reach the heights of the first film.
Yeah.
So why are we continuing to try? Just apart from the fact they make billions of dollars.
Yeah,
Well,
it makes a lot of money.
That's the reason. Yeah, that's the only reason why. Because people love dinosaurs and love Chris Pratt. Like, I get it. But yeah, I would potentially argue Jurassic Park as being, it's so perfect. You did not need to create a second one.
I think with my magic producer's hat on, then I can smell the money attached to Jurassic Park. And I'm like, we've made a world with dinosaurs. Let's keep making dinosaur movies. You know, that's the reason it gets made. Without the kind of creative content, you're right. Jurassic Park doesn't need a second movie. But I know exactly why it's got one, and a third, and a reboot, and a second reboot.
But it's annoying that, like, what's his face? Richard Attenborough even says at the end of the first one, like, I'm not going to do this ever again. Yeah. Like, he closes it at the end of the first film, like, this is not going to happen again. And yet we come back for Lost World and 3 and World and Fallen Kingdom. Like, it's just, it's... And even though I am bizarrely curious to see what Jurassic World 3 is going to look like, because I'm kind of hoping for like a Planet of the Apes style world where dinosaurs are like sentient. And, that I think is where the franchise needs to go. It needs to go into dinosaurs have literally taken the world again, and humans are seen as the subspecies to be conquered. Don't know.
That would be a leap, I think.
That would be a leap, definitely, because where the second film ends is just dinosaurs running into the wild, is not dinosaurs are now talking to each other.
But, it could happen.
Never say never.
Jurassic World 4, there we go. That'll be the Planet of the Apes sequel.
Let's talk about your worst sequel. Okay.
Yeah.
You can say worst, you can say least favourite, you can say detest, however you want to say it. It depends how nasty you want to go into it. So what is the worst?
This was the one that I was kind of racking my brain the most about when we were kind of DMing what I was going to pick. I knew my best and my dream pick quite quickly, but it was the worst one that I was torn on, because I felt like I could easily talk about how awful the Crimes of Grindelwald is for the Fantastic Beasts and Harry Potter universes, just because of how nothing that film is. But that was a film, I've seen it once and I've forgotten about it entirely, because I just thought it was so offensively bad, I don't want to experience it ever again. So I thought I'd wipe that out. But I've chosen The Rise of Skywalker, because I've seen it now 3 times. I saw it twice in the cinema, because the first time I thought, that can't be it. It can't be that bad. So I saw it again, and admittedly, the second time it did go up slightly. Like, it went up from like a 2 out of 5 to maybe like a 2.5 out of 5. Because there are some nice bits in it. Like, the end game bit, the end is quite nice. And it's just, it's quite well shot and stuff at points. But I think the further away I am from the film coming out, and the more I learn about how it was made and how badly it was just kind of put together from the very first of the sequel trilogy, it manages to somehow retroactively make the other 2 films worse. It does not add up to a cohesive trilogy at all. And I think the third one is a kind of an amalgamation of all the issues that the trilogy had. Even despite being a very big fan of both Force Awakens and Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker is just so badly put together that it feels like about 4 films in one. There are some pretty diabolical acting performances in there. I think, no offense, I love Daisy Ridley as a person, but I think she gives quite a bad performance as Rey. I think the film in general just doesn't come together. They added in Palpatine for no reason other than we need something to kind of bring it all together again. It's not as if there was a mention of Palpatine in the first film. They just added him in the very last second in The Rise of Skywalker. And I just thought, it has ruined kind of my love for the sequel trilogy, because my link to Star Wars is not that strong compared to other people. Like, I only watched kind of the originals when I was in university, so like 10 plus years ago. So I'd seen the prequels before I'd seen the originals. And I enjoyed the originals, don't get me wrong. I think they're all very good. I think Empire Strikes Back is definitely the best one. But I'm not as massive a Star Wars nut as many people are. Like, I know, like you are, Dave, for example. So seeing the sequels, these were new Star Wars films that I had quite a big connection to. I thought these are new characters that, you've got Han, you've got Leia, you've got Luke again. So you've got those to kind of tie to the originals. But you've got Rey, you've got Finn, you've got Kylo Ren, who I think is one of the better Star Wars villains. And yet, even with Kylo, The Rise of Skywalker just ruins his entire character arc by, in the last 20 minutes, he says not a single word. His entire journey to becoming Ben Solo again is completely ruined when he doesn't get a chance to say anything to Rey when he sacrifices his life for her. Like, what are we doing here, man? Like, it was so frustrating to watch it unfold because... the moment when you find out that Rey is a Palpatine, for example, that's the end of a film. That's not the end of Act 2. Like, that is where a film should have ended, and then you had a while to kind of come to terms with the fallout of her being a Palpatine, and then the next film deals with the consequences of that, her trying to become good again, or something like that. But that's not the end of a middle act. That is not the way that should have been done. And it just smacks of a film that was written a month before it was meant to be being shot. And it was... Sorry, I've ranted for a long time about Star Wars.
I'm going to be completely controversial and say that I dislike The Last Jedi more than Rise of Skywalker.
What?
But, having said that, it's only the first hour or so of Rise of Skywalker that I like. And also, when I watched it in the cinema for the first time, and today was only the second time that I've watched it, I was so angry. I don't think I've ever been so angry in a movie at the cinema ever.
Yeah.
And my wife was genuinely worried because I was so cross. I was just like fuming. Mainly the last line. Just the last line of the film.
Rey Skywalker.
Just craps over the whole entire franchise. Basically, you've chosen the name, you've chosen Skywalker just to make the title of this film work.
Yeah.
That is the only reason. She could have said Palpatine and recognised the sacrifice that her parents made for her. She could have said, and which would have been a perfectly acceptable ending, just Rey.
Just Rey. Yeah.
Just Rey.
That's all she needed to say.
Yeah.
Saying Skywalker just makes the title of the film work. And that's it. Yeah. That's all that does. Hideous. Absolutely hideous.
Along the same lines, it is completely appalling. It's along the same lines, like, say what you will about Last Jedi, because I'm a big fan of it. I don't think it's, perfect by any stretch of imagination, but I think it is very good. And I think what it wants to do in that it kind of throws out the rule book of Star Wars being like, anyone can be a Jedi, you haven't got to be linked to any lineage or whatever. That whole idea is wonderful. Just, convincing, the kid with the broom at the end of Last Jedi, like, he has seen that, he could be a new Jedi because he's seen someone else who's not from the Skywalker lineage. He knows that he could become the next Jedi. And yet they throw that out the window in the third film. Like, it negates the whole point of The Last Jedi. The film that Rian Johnson wrote was a film that was released into cinemas. And yet, so this idea that Disney kind of didn't like Last Jedi is nonsense. They didn't like the fan reactions to Last Jedi. So that's why they completely wrote The Rise of Skywalker to suit Reddit forums and kind of the really rabid fan base. And that's what killed Star Wars off as a sequel trilogy. That's what ruined the entire trilogy. And so just the fact that, like, to go back to it, the fact that Last Jedi set up this wonderful concept of that you haven't got to be anyone, and yet Rise of Skywalker just thought, actually, you've got to be someone important, actually. It ruins the entire point of the whole trilogy. I hate it.
And we haven't even mentioned what they do to other characters, like Finn and Rose and Poe.
The excitement around seeing Finn with a lightsaber in the first film was so cool.
Yeah.
Just, like, Rey was the chosen one, absolutely fine. I'm not an issue with Rey being the main character at all. But Finn also could have had this journey of being like, I want to become, a proper battle, because I want to become a proper warrior, because his journey as a former stormtrooper is incredibly interesting for the kind of journey to follow. And yet they abandon it completely. Even Last Jedi kind of throws it away to a point. And you're thinking, you had such a great character foundation in the first film to build upon, and yet they completely ignored it. And it is, like I've said it many times already, it's a trilogy that never had a clear plan from day one.
That's what frustrates me the most about this movie.
Yeah.
it keeps me awake at night, to be honest. That they didn't know the ending when they started. They just wanted.
No.
I think Force Awakens is a fantastic film. What a start!
I love Force Awakens.
I think The Last Jedi, like you said, is a perfect middle point. Anyone can be a Jedi, and then we get this, and they bring it all back to the. I would have been happy if no fucking Empire or Palpatine even existed at this point. What was he been doing on the edge of the universe all this time? And
making Snokes.
nuts.
That's what he's been doing. This was like small collection of Snokes in a glass jar. When he says I made Snoke, I didn't realise he meant he actually made him. Like,
physically built him with his hands,
put him together. I like bits of this film. I have to say,
Which bits?
I like Poe and Finn's relationship. I like the first hour. It feels like a Star Wars movie for the first hour or so. Because that's what Star Wars is, right? It's a romp across space. You know, it's a collecting movie. It's a road movie in space, and it kind of is that to start with. You know, they're looking for something. They're trying to find it. It's a kind of an ensemble of characters that trying to get to somewhere, and then it all starts to unravel. And you're right. And Kylo Ren is sinister and evil, and really, really great for an hour. And then after that first hour, it suddenly becomes a completely different movie, and that's when it loses me. Like,
Which point was that? Was that when he fights Rey on the wavy?
When he speaks to his ghost dad?
Yeah, no, it's before the ghost dads. I mean, it's.
Is it when Chewbacca? You think Chewbacca's dead, but he's not really, or
that was bad.
Or when they wasted the Knights of Ren again?
Oh.
I mean, I don't get the Knights of Ren at all. Who are they? I thought they might explain who the Knights of Ren are in this film. That's what I was expecting. That's
a nice kind of succinct example of the problem with J.J. Abrams. I think he's the kind of guy who is incredibly talented, and he's clearly got amazing ideas. Like Lost, for example, he obviously started Lost.
Don't get me started on Lost. I still haven't forgiven him for the end of Lost.
You can't say that the start of Lost was incredible. Like the first series, Lost is amazing. Brilliant. You know, he created Fringe, one of my favourite TV shows of all time, and yet Fringe worked because he created it, and then he just gave it off to a few people to kind of do whatever they wanted to do with it. So that had a lovely ending because he had nothing to do with it. J.J. Abrams can't write endings, and it's becoming a genuine issue, and it's now ruined one of the biggest franchises in cinema history. Like, he was a really good person to give, say, Mission Impossible 3 to, because that film is a very good film, and it sets up the kind of the franchise going on into like the next generation, I suppose, of more futuristic technology. And I think going it into kind of films by Brad Bird, by Chris McQuarrie, was a very clever way to do it. Like, give him the key to start it, like they did with Force Awakens, then give it to Rian Johnson, and then give it to Colin Trevorrow, who, yes, you might have your kind of critiques of, but his kind of spec script for his episode 9 was much more interesting than what The Rise of Skywalker was, The Duel of the Fates. So much more interesting.
Yeah.
And I think that's where they went wrong, is they went back to J.J. Abrams to think you've got to right the ship now because fans aren't happy. And it was doomed to fail, I think, when they went back to him because of his history of bad endings.
The way they put Kylo Ren's mask back together is like a metaphor for everything, isn't it? It's like... They smash the shit of it out of Destroyers, like, no, that's done. And then JJ gets back on board like, oh, no, I liked the mask. Let's put the mask back together.
Exactly. I designed that mask myself.
Super glue it back together, yeah.
Yeah.
Cover that face. So Adam Driver's got such a good face as well. And then,
he does. Like it takes away from his performance. Like, he's got a very good voice. Don't get me wrong. Like, in the first film, he has a very kind of cool presence when he's got the mask on. But then the surprise is when he takes it off, when he talks to Rey when she's kind of held captive. You're thinking, oh, he's not a Darth Vader. He is his own person. He exists underneath the mask.
And that's the actual
that's cool.
beauty of it, of him not having the mask, is because he looks a bit like Harrison Ford. And you can genuinely believe that he is his son. They have the chin. They have the same chin.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's, you can really kind of see that he is his son. And putting the mask back on him is almost like his character's gone backwards a little.
Yeah, 100%.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I'm glad they kind of lose it later on. But that's the whole metaphor, isn't it? Of signifying that he's, gone back to being Ben again.
How did you feel about the final assault? So this the bits on the horse,
Exegol.
the Exegol, the fins on the horse with
I was happy to see Wedge.
Naomi.
That's about it.
Wedge turned up. Lando turned up. You got Rey down there in her pit with with the Force ghosts. How did you feel that all melded together? Was that at that point? Did you give up and fuck this?
I gave up on the whole Rey Palpatine element of it quite quickly. When they brought Ben Solo back into it and they had him, kill the Knights of Ren, and admittedly quite a nice action scene. It was quite well choreographed, but even then, like you said, it was a waste of the Knights of Ren. Like they were built up after the first trailer for the Force Awakens, and they did absolutely nothing across the entire 3 films. Same as Captain Phasma, absolutely nothing character. But so the Rey stuff in the pit with Palpatine and kind of her listening to the Force voices again, and I was like, this is just naff. This is clearly just fan service at this point. And it was nice hearing people like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan again. Fine. But it didn't really add much to it. It didn't add much to her journey for me. But then, like I said at the start, I think the end game moment when all the rebels come back with Lando, that's quite nice. And it's quite, well shot, and it just looks cool to see all these kind of fan favourite ships from the Clone Wars and stuff appear kind of in the sky. Yeah, that looks nice. And I get that is what it was going for, was that the rebellion was always there all along, and they just had to kind of find it again and kind of find that spark of hope again and stuff. But I think by that point it was too little too late. One nicely done scene is enough to save a film that doomed a trilogy from being a great trilogy into a mediocre, if not bad one.
Yeah, I have to ask, are you a trailer person? Do you watch trailers?
I love trailers,
cool.
Yeah. The very first trailer when it shows
Palpatine.
I think it's no, I was going to say the first one way back in The Force Awakens.
Oh, lost my shit, yeah.
Yeah, when you see, I think it's Rey on that little speeder, and then it kind of goes on, and then it zooms out to see it's a fallen, what's it called, Star Destroyer.
Yeah.
You're like, holy shit, that's so good. Where's that excitement gone? And then even, like you said, even the Rise of Skywalker trailer, when Palpatine, you hear his laugh, you're like, oh shit, that's actually quite effectively done. But then the reason of him coming back is just Poe says, somehow he's back. And that's it. That's the only explanation we get for it. And you're just thinking,
I still don't understand how he's back.
No, it's never dealt with. It is never, ever explained.
Do a little Voldemort story, couldn't you? Of Snoke's been carrying him around on his back all the time or whatever.
Yeah.
Anything, really.
Unicorn blood can sustain him. But now he needs a body of his own. Yeah.
I guess the Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith was probably not your... You said, Star Wars wasn't a massive thing for you necessarily.
I watched Attack of the Clones not too long ago, and I'd forgotten how bad that film was. There's a very funny kind of YouTube video about Attack of the Clones and how there's a sequence where someone wants to kill Anakin. So Count Dooku hires someone who hires someone who hires someone who hires a robot who sends out a little leech thing to kill Anakin. That is a very funny bit. And that whole kind of Attack of the Clones thing, apart from the Colosseum fight at the end, is quite fun. I do quite enjoy that. And I do like the Dooku against Obi-Wan and Anakin lights up battle. When you see Yoda lose his shit as well, that's quite fun.
I lost my shit.
But the love story... Oh my god.
Yeah, sand and all that shit.
It gets everywhere.
Yeah, I never bought Hayden Christensen as being kind of a love interest to Natalie Portman. I just never did it.
But would you say it's as disappointing as The Rise of Skywalker? Is the disappointed...
That's a good question, actually. I don't think Attack of the Clones was ever a disappointment in the same way as Rise of Skywalker is.
No, because Phantom Menace was shit as well.
I've got a soft spot for Phantom Menace because it was my first ever Star Wars film. And you've got things, the pod race is terrific. Yeah. Duel of the Fates is terrific. The whole kind of Qui-Gon sacrifice is brilliant. Oh, not sacrifice, his death is brilliant. Darth Maul, great villain. Obi-Wan, brilliant. There's some really, really lovely bits in Phantom Menace.
Jar Jar Binks,
as a whole... Yeah, Jar Jar Binks is shit. Yeah. The CGI is appallingly shit. And the whole stuff on, what planet is it when they go to the underwater people? That's shite as well.
Oh, giving up.
Whatever. Is it Naboo? No,
it is Naboo, yes.
Is it Naboo? Yeah.
Yeah, and they
there's always a bigger fish, or whatever it is.
Yeah, that shit, yeah. I never liked the droids that kind of, they were the old stormtroopers before they got the clones in and stuff. I'd never really bought into that whole idea.
That's the thing, because stormtroopers are menacing though, right? Stormtroopers are menacing in the same way that Cybermen are menacing in Doctor Who, and the droids are about as menacing as a flip-flop. You know, like...
Yeah. At least the Stormtroopers were like... I mean, at least. They were incredibly well designed when they first came about in A New Hope. You know, like, that helmet is a wonderfully designed helmet, and you know what... When you see one, you know exactly where it's from. Whereas the droids are just a thin, stick, brown robot droid thing. You're like... There's no character to you at all, apart from the one that says Roger Roger. Like,
Roger.
That's it. That's all you are worth, is that one word.
And they're rubbish. They're easy to die. Like, at least Stormtroopers...
Oh, they're like made of paper. Yeah. But then I will say that I've not seen it for a long time, admittedly, but I do have fond memories of Revenge of the Sith as well.
And why does General Grievous have a cough? He's a robot.
That is an odd one, yeah.
It's just
like, is it because he's like a former human? Is he like? I've no idea what the lore of Grievous is.
No,
but no, I think Revenge of the Sith is fun, and it's obviously the battle on Mustafar is very cool. Is it Mustafar? Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah,
the lava planet. Like, that's obviously a brilliantly kind of.
I think Revenge of the Sith
fight
sort of is a redemption. It's a much better movie than the other two. For me, Rise of Skywalker is not as. Both the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones were hideous abominations for me, and Rise of Skywalker, I get it, I totally get it, and I totally get the hate of it, and I was really angry coming out of it, but I could watch it and enjoy it because I know it's bad at the end, you know, I know it is, so I can ignore it, but I can't ignore the stupid floating fruit scene in Attack of the Clones without wanting to throw something at the TV.
Is that the opera bit, or is that Revenge of the Sith?
No, the opera bit's Revenge of
the Sith. Yeah.
Revenge of the Sith, I think. No, it's the bit opera where Anakin uses the Force to float a bit of fruit to Padme. Yeah, and it just makes me want to vomit. It's just so horrible.
What makes Rise of the Skywalker so bad for me personally is that they had 2 films to get to that point, and they should have known where they were going. And I think that's what upset Rhys as well. That was so hyped. This is fucking Star Wars. This is not like general stroll down a Saturday afternoon. This is fucking Star Wars. This is a lot of people's. I'm gonna be really geeky. That lives are like they really love Star Wars.
They revolve around Star Wars about it.
And the idea that they didn't know who Rey was for how many other years, and it was probably just someone's idea on set. Let's just try a few things. Let's say Palpatine. Let's say Vader. And they went with that choice. Makes me angry. And it's always going to probably be my least favourite because of that reason.
If Rey had been a Palpatine all the way through, and it was always leading up to that point, it could have been lovely.
Yeah.
But you're right. They didn't make that decision, and they didn't follow it through all the way through. And her parents weren't nobody. That's the point, isn't it? Like, you know, that's in The Last Jedi. You know, it's your parents were nobody.
Yeah.
You know, after all this hyping up of like her lineage, and Kylo says, "I know who your parents were. They were nobody." Her dad was the son of the Emperor. For God's sake, happen? He's not nobody.
Yeah.
How did that happen? That's the thing, isn't it? How did no one know the Emperor had a son, illegitimate or not? That comes out. I know we don't know how many kids Boris Johnson's got, but you know, like, this is a galactic empire.
Does the timeline even work out from the age of Rey is to when Palpatine got thrown down the tube?
I haven't worked it out, Dave. I don't know. Someone would have worked it out. And probably.
I think we all agree the end point should be, "What's your name? My name is Rey." But you know, just Rey.
Yeah, just Rey.
She makes her own future.
Yeah. Just Rey.
I've seen like various clips from people in the cinema at the time, and then she says Skywalker, and people just go, "No!" Like,
that's me. That's exactly what I did. I think I actually went, "Oh, fuck off!"
I definitely shook my head.
Yeah. I think it probably says a lot that it is the one Star Wars film I don't own on Blu-ray. Like, I've got the other 8. I've got the other 10. I've got Rogue One and Solo. I've not got Rise of Skywalker. Just because I don't want to watch it again.
Yeah.
Like, I watched it when it came on Disney Plus, and I thought, you know, it's been like 3 months since I saw it. Maybe it'll be better. And if anything, it got worse when I watched it the third time on Disney Plus. So just that film is now erased from my memory. There's also that really dumb thing about the dagger that points to the fallen Death Star. They say it's an ancient dagger that was made about 25 years ago. Like, the Death Star's not been there for 1,000 years. Like, it's not, it's like, you know, this legendary mythical dagger. It's just a knife someone found in their kitchen one day and thought, oh, I'll make this a clue to a map. Ah, bollocks.
It just
mate.
happens to be the knife that killed Ray's parents.
Yeah.
At that point, it starts getting very confusing. Like, who? Why? What are we looking for in this little ship? No. Let's stop talking about it. Have you got any more? Do you feel good after your rant, Rhys?
I do feel better. There's also the one last thing as well.
Go
is
on.
that the renowned, very famous left loose plot thread where Finn or Poe says, Poe, I've got to tell you something when they're falling into the sand pit.
Oh, yeah.
And then no one ever says what they're going to say.
Finn says he has to tell Ray something, and I think it's going to be that
that's
he
the
loves her, basically. But that makes no sense.
I think he's got Jedi power.
I thought it was something to do with him having some sort of Force kind of awareness to him, yeah.
And what film did you find most disappointing? So you've bigged it up. You're like, this is going to be great.
Oh,
See, it wasn't all questions that you knew were coming.
that's a big question. I would probably say, apart from Rise of Skywalker, because I think it's probably up there, I would say Pacific Rim 2, because I love Pacific Rim 1. Like, Del Toro, as a filmmaker, is a genius. And I think Pacific Rim, he makes the film that he wants to make. He makes a big robot smashing big monsters film. And it looks great. Like, you've got the neon kind of fight scene in Hong Kong is just incredible to look at. Pacific Rim Uprising, also starring John Boyega, coincidentally, is just... It's like they didn't understand what made the first one so good. They made it into a Transformers film. And they tried to kind of, for some reason, combat the fact that so much of Pacific Rim was set at night. Even though they made the nighttime neon stuff look really cool, they thought, let's make it all set in the daytime, which takes away a bit of the mystery of the actual kind of, what they call the Jaegers. For some reason, they made them all faster in daytime, which meant that none of the punches that they were throwing had any weight to them, so it just felt like a few toys scrapping about, and it didn't have the same... I don't want to say gravitas, because it's Pacific Rim. It's big monsters flying big monsters, like big robots. Like, it's not a gravitas thing. But at least Pacific Rim had a bit, something about it, you know? It had a bit of personality and a bit of style to it, whereas Pacific Rim Uprising, it doesn't have anything going for it. It's just a film that used the style of Pacific Rim, the first one, and just took a chance to make another big robots fighting big monsters film without any of the emotional weight to it or any of the depth to the kind of... There was no good lore. It was just crap. It was another kind of cash grab opportunity.
I enjoyed Pacific Rim. I saw it at the cinema, and I've not seen the sequel, and I don't think I will now.
The sequel is just nothing. It's just nothing. For all the good stuff the first one has, it just doesn't take anything forward. It even ruins, like, Charlie Day's character. Like,
It's a mess. It is a waste of time.
It's a waste of time.
It doesn't even look as good. Like, the robots.
It really doesn't. The robots don't look as clean, don't look as impressively CGI.
It's one of those bizarre
as the first film.
sequels. They, instead of improving on or better or adding to it, it subtracts. It makes it worse.
Yeah,
it's nothing.
It does.
All the elements are there. Like, it's still got a good cast. It's still, like you said, aliens versus giant robots. It should all be pretty cool, but I think it's just a storyline.
It was just a waste of time. It was a complete waste of time.
So, what have you picked for your dream sequel? The film you most want to have a sequel that never got it.
Yeah, again, this is one that I did have a nice idea for it, but I wanted to make sure there was the right choice, because I think you can't just think, I want to see kind of a follow-up to that film. I want to kind of see what happens next. I think that you can't just go straight into it like in that way. Like, kind of, I thought about, I'll say Inception. That's like, it's quite nice. Is it a dream or is it real? Haha. Like, I can't really do that. So I thought about what film has got a really cool kind of world. Maybe not gotta do a straight sequel, but you could do a film within the same kind of universe and have it build off.
Okay, we'll allow it.
Kind of lore and the rules and stuff. So I really like the idea. I really love the film Looper, which is like a Star Wars link, also by Rian Johnson. And I think Looper has a very cool world in that the whole premise of Looper is that time travel was outlawed when it was invented. And then, so all these kind of criminals then used time travel to commit dirty deeds where they sent people back in time to kill them and stuff. And I think, yeah, that's a concept. Love it. I'm in. And it helps being a massive time travel fan anyway, that anything with time travel instantly is already at least 3 stars. Doesn't matter the quality of the film itself. If it's got time travel, I'm going to at least like it. So my Looper dream sequel would be definitely a continuation, But I think I would probably have it as a bit of a kind of a prequel, I guess.
Well, it's time travel, so we'll see where this goes.
Yeah. But I think because the way that Looper has it has time travel, but it also has a very small part of the population, they do have this telekinetic ability. A bit like an X-Men type version to the world. You can definitely explore that further, because you obviously had the Rainmaker child that Bruce Willis tries to kill at the end of Looper. Spoiler alert. His powers were obviously super powered compared to everyone else in the world, and you could explore further kind of which people are chosen to have these telekinetic powers. Where do they come from? Why have they got TK? Why is time travel? Who invented time travel? Like, there's just, the world is so well built and well established that he does, ironically, Rian Johnson create a nicely closed loop of a film, but the world is there to be explored, and I think I want to see more of things in that world. So I've picked Looper to get a dream sequel.
Who would you have directing? Would you have Rian Johnson back, as it is his world?
Yeah, I think he's the one, he conceived it, he wrote it, and he's also very aware that the time travel in Looper is a little bit shaky, which I'm fine with. Like, there's even a point where Bruce Willis literally says, don't worry about time travel, let's not go into the details of it, because that's where people fall over. I've not got an issue with time travel. I absolutely love doing it.
You love doing it? What?
I love doing it. I love talking about it.
Hang on, that's a revelation.
I love kind of exploring it and trying to understand it. Like, like Dave, like last year, me and Sam adored Tenet and trying to figure out how Tenet worked and how that time travel worked. It's just, I love doing that stuff. So it doesn't bother me how the time travel works. So yeah, I would definitely get Rian Johnson back, but I would probably have new characters, because I think the Joe storyline is done, because obviously at the end he kills himself to save their child from becoming the Rainmaker, I guess. So I think you could, but there's so many kind of ways you could take that story, because they're all kind of criminals working in the underground of the world they're in, that you could follow all sorts of stories. You could have someone who is making sure that all the loops aren't ever closed, and you could go forward and kind of say, oh, we've got loads of people running around they shouldn't be alive anymore, and they're trapped in 30 years in the past, and you think, oh shit, we've got to track these people down and who is doing it and that stuff. You could go that angle. It's just, there's a lot of stuff to it, man. There's a lot of cool things you could take from Looper and go forward with it. I'm
really glad you chose this, because I thought I'd seen Looper, and turns out I was getting confused with a movie called Jumper.
Great film, by the way.
So my wife was saying to me, oh, what's Looper? And I was like, oh, it's got like Hayden Christensen and Jamie Bell in it. And I was like, it's about like, teleporting and stuff. And I was like, and I sat down to watch it, and I was like, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, like,
Bruce
Willis, with his face changed somehow to look like Bruce Willis. But I really liked it. I really liked this movie. And I was thinking about how does a sequel happen? How does a Looper sequel happen? Because, like you say, he does close his own loop, essentially, doesn't he? There's no, you can't really have the Joe story is done. But I guess the next thing is, how does the Rainmaker become the Rainmaker? Or does he become the Rainmaker now this thing has happened? Yeah. That's kind of where it. And Emily Blunt is really good in this too.
It's great.
It's a much better movie than I was expecting. When 5 minutes in, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be dull."
It's one of those films that, like, when the first kind of half an hour is a lovely setup for the rest of the story. In that you've got the Paul Dano character, and he has to close his loop, but he freaks out, so his character's running kind of loose. Yeah. But then you've got that horrible bit when his older version is like slowly decaying.
That's so
through time. That's so well done. And you're thinking, and that sets up kind of the stakes of why Joe has got to kill his future self. Like, what's going to happen, and it's really well kind of set out, and it's less about the time travel. It becomes, by the end of it becomes like a family drama, like where he's like a kind of a deadbeat dad, and the estranged mum trying to get back in kind of good books with his son, and like, but then you've got that magical undercurrent to it, and you've got people trying to kill this kid, and it's just it's so good, man. It's really good.
Let's just say this is the last time Bruce Willis turned up in a movie, right?
Oh yeah, he's never tried anything since this. He's there for the paycheck at this point.
I think for this one, he actually read the script and thought, "Oh no, this is a good idea. This is a good script."
This is quite good, yeah. There's even the point when he's like, when it shows him living off in China with his kind of love of his life. It's a very well paced out love story, that section. Like, you do understand, you get how well these two get on with each other. You understand their love for each other. So when she gets killed by accident, kind of accident on purpose, you do feel that kind of pain that he's felt. Like, you understand why he now has got to go back and figure out, kind of get revenge, effectively. Like, it works. It's a really, really well written film.
It works in the same way that Up works. It tells the love story in the same way that Up tells the love story. You don't get it in kind of, it's not outwards. It's kind of, you work it out for yourself. You put your own emotions on it, which is why it hits you harder. I want to know Jeff Daniels' story as well. Like,
he's
that's
a really
the other
good
thing.
character,
I was like,
actually.
where does it go in 2? We find out who Jeff Daniels is, and we find out where what Sid becomes, and does he become the Rainmaker and all that kind of stuff, or does he become a superhero?
Yeah,
Like,
the selling point for Looper is a young Bruce Willis is hunting an older self, right, or the other way around.
Yeah.
Would you maybe have another character that happened to? So maybe a Jeff Daniels character. I don't know what. I'm just throwing names out here, or maybe a young Sid with an older Sid, or a young Emily Blunt hunting an older.
does that
Emily
run
Blunt.
the risk of becoming a bit Terminator?
Yeah, a bit
franchise,
samey.
though?
Like,
That's what, when you were describing the film a minute ago, I was like, this sounds very Terminator 2-ish at the end.
fair. I mean, I don't think I would have the same idea of kind of an older version, a younger version.
That's
You
that's
could
the
obviously,
selling point, isn't it? Or the first one.
you could. There's definitely a thing, but then you could potentially have, a character coming back kind of from the future and doing something that way. But my idea for a kind of a sequel, a Looper 2, would be actually going back to when time travel first came about. Like, why was it outlawed? What went so badly wrong that they had to make it illegal? So it became this kind of underground crime kind of syndicate that they just used time travel to sort out their own jobs. And I think
maybe whatever went wrong, made time travel illegal, has already happened in the future. So there's a loop there.
So they've gone back. Yeah, they've gone back to be like, you've got to stop it now because it's going to cause the end of the world.
Something like that.
Like Tenet. Yeah. Could be like that. But I thought it could just be kind of showing all these people realizing, oh, I can use time travel to rob this bank.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Can use time travel to go and like kind of have kind of people discovering how to use time travel, and then it becoming them being on the run through time from people trying kind of to stop it from happening ever again, because it's causing, you could argue that it's causing kind of timeline issues in that you are seeing people seeing their former selves in different timelines and thinking it's fucking people up, like it's making everyone's mental health go through the roof because of just they're seeing their 40-year-old self coming back from the future all the time, and it's like, oh shit, like there's a lot of variables and a lot of consequences to having this time travel ability, and the fact that it was outlawed tells you that something went terribly wrong to make it have to be outlawed. So yeah, I think there's a story in how it came about and what went wrong back in the year 2000 and whatever it was.
Do you have a name like Looper 2 : Looped? Or
two loop. I don't know. I don't have a name for it. And I think other than Looper 2 is bland.
Loopy.
Loopy.
Loopia.
Looped. It could be quite good.
I think we're going to have to work on the name, Rhys.
Yeah, we do have to work on that. I didn't think I've asked about a name for a film. I thought I just had to come up with a.
I don't know what questions come in my head.
But no, I do think a Looper sequel definitely has some sort of legs.
Yeah.
I think it's a great world that he's built. And it's one of those things that he only really included the telekinesis element to explain away the Rainmaker and how this kid has these superpowers. But then, where did this gene come from? Because they do say that I think it's like 10% of the population have this TK ability. She's got it, like Emily Blunt's got it as well. So, there's so much depth to it that Rian Johnson very cleverly wrote it in a way that told this one story, but he left a lot of cool ideas floating around for people to go and explore and discuss like we're doing right now. And I think that is where the legs of the sequel come into it.
Agreed. It's such a good film as well, Looper.
It's a great film.
It's one of those films that is so good, you don't want a sequel. But
yeah, I mean that's the thing with Looper as well, is that it's not based on a novel. It's not based on anything else. It's based. It's solely a film written to be a film, isn't it? And that's quite rare these days. You know, it's not part of a...
Especially a sci-fi.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not part of a trilogy. It's not a novel. It's not got anything it's based on. It's not based on a TV show or anything like that. It's a standalone movie, and that's so rare that it feels like a sequel could only spoil it almost.
But saying that, now you've described what you described, like the world it's made. I hadn't really thought about it. I quite like to delve deeper into that. I know it's a bad example, but Moon and what's his other one? Mute were in the same, and one's better than the other, but they're in the same realm, aren't they? They're in the same universe. So
yeah,
you could maybe do it in a kind of Cloverfield trilogy kind of way, where the sequels don't really run into the original. You know, they're just in the same world.
It takes the rules of the world and just kind of creates a new story from it. Yeah, because the idea of it kind of being a time travel story, you haven't got to make it that whole looping concept. You know, having to kill your old self. Just having time travel just adds in a new kind of. You can do whatever you want to do with that idea, but obviously when you've got to close your loop, that is the tension of the first film, that you know that at some point you've got to kill yourself.
Crazy,
which is just on its own an insane concept.
Put some casting out there. What are you imagining? Who would you like to see in this world? Ryan Gosling, for example? Or do we feel like he's already done Blade Runner 2049?
If I was kind of fan casting just because I want to see him in more things, I think Michael Shannon as like an aging Looper agent would be very cool. Michael Shannon's just classic.
Michael Shannon's a great shout. I can see that.
He's just, I think him as being someone who is kind of disgruntled with having to keep doing it all the time. And he's just like, I want to close my loop at this point, but then something goes wrong that we can't do it. That could be a quite fun story. And then they could, you know, I think there's definitely, Michael Shannon in anything is good for me. So I think, I'd give Michael Shannon something kind of an action lead to do, I think. That's it. Looper 2 is written.
Done.
I don't think anyone else I could have in it. I don't think so. And Michael Shannon is like, I would, if anyone asked me to cast anyone in anything, I'm thinking, Michael Shannon, probably good. Like, he's just so reliable. And I'm big on Stephen Yeun at the minute after Invincible. So, Stephen Yeun also, I'd be fine with him.
Any idea? Sorkin to write it? I know you're a big Alan Sorkin.
Well, Sorkin to write time travel would be fascinating. But I don't think his style really kind of, works with a sci-fi.
But it would be interesting.
He's very grounded in reality. But it would be an interesting experiment for him to do. I think stick it to Rian Johnson still. I think he knows that world. He wrote the original story. And I think you always run the risk of someone kind of ruining what came before it. You want to have someone who's got a bit of creative flair as well, like Rian Johnson has. So maybe someone like a Damien Chazelle to direct or something. Give it a bit of like a twist, like a musical twist to it. Not literally a musical. I mean, like with his camera movements and stuff.
I was going to say
you lost me there. Yeah. In terms of because he uses his camera more creatively than most directors, I think. Damien Chazelle, like the way that he kind of puts it on objects all the time and has it move around is very fluid and flashy and fun.
Yeah.
You could definitely have him doing it. And I also am a big fan of James Wan. I think he also does very fun, creative things with the camera. And obviously he did, things like Fast 7 and The Conjuring. He knows his way around a franchise, how to... Fast 7 is a quality entrance in the Fast and Furious kind of series. And he did his kind of fun kind of technique. So he had that wonderful shot of The Rock bottoming Jason Statham through a glass table and the camera flips as they go into the table. It's just anyone who's got that kind of flair for camera work and what a shot should look like is a big kind of yes from me.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to watch this, Rhys.
I mean, I'll get out my
on it. Well, Richie's got the money. He's magic. I'm not quite sure where we've landed with Rich being the magic producer on this idea yet, but he doesn't really know about it. But it's going to happen.
And that was Rhys Bowen-Jones's Unequal Sequels.
I enjoyed that. That was a good fun. I always enjoy talking to Rhys about movies. I think his passion really shines through, and I always enjoy reading his reviews on Jump Cut. So if you guys haven't checked out Jump Cut online, check it out. They've got loads of writers, but Rhys is particularly one of my favourite writers. I wouldn't say that to his face though.
Yeah, don't tell him that. You're doing it to get a big head.
Ridiculous. Did you enjoy his picks, Rich?
I did. I really enjoyed having that. I really enjoyed getting to watch Looper because I'd not.
You thought it was
before.
Jumper, didn't you?
I did. I got confused between Looper and Jumper. Yeah, these things happen.
That could work. And it was always good to have a little bit of a rant about Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. I think Rise of Skywalker's gonna come up.
I think it's going to get a few mentions, isn't it? Because the ending's so fucking dumb and annoying.
Oh god, the ending just ruins the whole thing. Really, it would have been a half decent movie, almost, if the ending wasn't so stupid.
It's always nice talking about Toy Story. I love talking about Pixar films, especially early Pixar films. I have such good memories watching the early ones, so it's really, and I love going back and watching them. So that was fun to do. Just really enjoyed that episode. We've been on some other podcasts with Rhys before, haven't we? Me and you, and we've always had a good time. So it's really nice talking to someone who's so, like I said, so passionate about movies and knowledgeable as well.
If you want to hear a bit more of Rhys, he's done an episode of the Baywatch podcast with us too, which is really funny because he'd never seen Baywatch before. He'd never seen a single episode of Baywatch before, so he was totally thrown by what we made him sit through.
That possibly could be my favourite episode we've ever done of the Baywatch podcast.
Yeah, he was very confused. So do go back and have a little listen to the Baywatch podcast, especially Rhys's episode, because it's crazy.
Yeah, check that out. If you want to check out this podcast, we are also on the internet. We're there somewhere.
Well, you know that because you're listening.
Good point. Fair point. We're on Instagram at Unequal Sequel. We're on Twitter at Unequal Sequel. You can email us at unequalsequel@hotmail.com. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many other ones that I don't even know.
Absolutely.
I'm still surprised the ones we're popping up on.
And it would really help us out to give us a little like and a little subscribe as well.
Yeah, tell your friends, tell your family.
Click that little heart on the Google podcast because that just fills us with joy when we get one of them. So
yeah, show us a little bit of love. We're really enjoying doing it. Go check out our other episodes, but our other episodes of Helen O'Hara and Sean Walsh are still up at this point, and they will be forever, to be honest. But they're both really good and both worth a listen.
And don't forget, every Friday we'll bring you an extra
episode. Not quite sure what they're going to be every episode, but there'll be something.
Yeah.
They're nice and short. They're about under half an hour.
Yeah. Basically gives us a chance to review a sequel that's out that week, or just to kind of talk about some sequel-based stuff. So yeah, they're always good fun too.
Have we got anything else to say, Rich, apart from go listen to the Baywatch podcast? But we've kind of covered that.
We covered that. Go over to Jump Cut and have a read of some of Rhys's articles. Mm-hmm. If you are into movies, then Jump Cut Online is a really good place to go. Get some really good movie reviews and stuff on there. Some really good.
Yeah, their articles are very good. They're a very passionate crew.
Yeah.
And
they've not paid us to say this. We're actually just saying it because we like them.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, they're a good crew. I enjoy being a very, very, very minimal part of that team.
Yeah, it's nice when they invite us to go on podcasts and stuff. To
it's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's always nice to be wanted.
Yeah.
That's about it from me, Rich.
That's definitely it from me.
Until next week when we're interviewing someone else that I reveal at some point on the internet.
I'm excited.
Yep, and we'll see you next time. So that's a bye from me.
And bye from me. Bye!